Yeah, as Kevin told you, we're going to talk today about doing instructional screencasts. You heard my previous lecture about online learning, and I went through how to do assessments, how to structure your web space, and how to do pretty much everything but do your direct instruction. And that's because a lot of your direct instruction, when you do an online course, you can either do written instruction where you actually write things out and have students read it, or sometimes the better thing to do is actually to create screencasts. That way they can hear your voice, and in a case like the screencast we're doing now, they can see your face. So what better way to actually introduce you to screencasting than to avoid me just lecturing to you in person and actually do it as an actual screencast. So with this screencast, by the way, I'm using fairly bare bones technology. There's going to be nothing fancy in it. Probably takes maybe 2 hours to do the entire screencast, and I'm actually using YouTube. So the interesting thing is I'm doing this screencast entirely through YouTube, which is kind of an interesting idea. And the really cool thing about that, by the way, is it actually allows me to jump from my webcam to actually a presentation on my screen. So without further ado, why don't we actually start doing that? And let me present here. So start the presentation here. All right, the do's and don'ts of screencasting. Without further ado, the first thing we need to do is look at what a screencast is. And there's actually two types. The first is a regular screencast. And what that means is you are taking a broadcast recording of your screen. So the typical screencast is you see whatever's on my screen, and then you hear me talking about it. Then there's what I call a camcast. I don't think that the term is actually in use very often. I'm not sure if it's something I made up on the fly, but it's basically the same thing as a screencast, but instead of taking a picture of your screen, it takes a picture of your camera. And you're going to want to use these for two different purposes. Let's look at the screencast I have here on the left. By now you've probably heard James Stacy Taylor talk, and he's probably told you that you shouldn't waste a lot of time in class talking about your syllabus. So the first day of class, the tendency is let's read through the syllabus. Of course, the students are perfectly capable of reading through the syllabus, and you want to save that time for more interesting stuff like discussion. So one of the ways I use screencasts, even in my in-person classes, is I actually do a video of me talking about the major important points of the syllabus, and I tell students you can read the syllabus at home, and if you want to hear some more elaboration on it, you can watch the video of the syllabus, and then if you have any questions, come by my office hour. But for God's sakes, let's not talk about the syllabus in class because you can do that at home. The camcast is going to be for those times when you really want to do something face-to-face. So in an online course, it's really important because students really can't see you face-to-face. So you're going to want to do certain, maybe lecture, direct instruction, maybe with a bit of face-to-face whenever you can. If you need them to see the screen, fine, but maybe try to do a few of them where they can actually see your face and hear your voice and put the name to the face and whatnot. About the length of the screencast, there's really not good literature on this. So I'm going to go by anecdote from my personal experience, what I've heard other professors say, and just good old intuition. 3 to 15 minutes is probably the length you want to shoot for, and there's two reasons for that. First of all, the longer the video, the more likely students will be to skip the video. And if you think about how you act on YouTube and video websites, it kind of makes sense. The longer the video, the more you think about, wow, do I really want to commit to watching this? If it's a 10-minute video, it's a lot easier to start it than it is if it's a 45-minute video and you know you're going to have to sit there for 45 minutes. So you think a few seconds about, do I want to watch this? Maybe I'll put it off till later. Obviously, you want to make sure that students are least likely to avoid the video. Also, with the science of attention span, if you go up to that 15-minute mark and even past it, you really risk maybe students will start the video, but are they going to be paying attention the whole time, especially when they're watching a video on their computer where they can also surf the web if they want. The shorter the videos, the more likely they'll pay attention. So if you have a lot of stuff to get through in your lecture, think about chopping it up. So instead of doing a 45-minute video that's one lecture, think about maybe 3 or 4 different themes that are in your lecture and cut down the lecture to maybe 3 or 4 shorter videos. That also allows students to start the video, end the video, go and do something else, watch the next video, then go and do something else. It's really great, especially for older students or non-traditional students that don't have 45 minutes at a time necessarily to sit down and watch a video. So the next thing is the softwares you're going to be using. There's actually tons of software out there. A lot of it's free, some of it's a paid software. If you're using Windows, you're going to probably use Windows Movie Maker. Using Apple, you're going to want to use QuickTime. I think Open Broadcaster software is also a Windows product. If you want to pay for a really good software that's actually cross-platform, I think it's available for Windows and Mac. There's Camtasia Studio. Camtasia Studio costs about $150, I think, for an individual user. But if you're affiliated with an institution and you're an instructor at that institution, chances are they already have a subscription to that software and they can actually just put it on your computer for free for instructional purposes. Of course, I'm using YouTube, which is a really exciting development. If you go to your YouTube page and you press upload, which is in the top right corner somewhere, it will allow you to do a screencast video. And I'm doing mine as what's called a Google Plus Hangout on air. And instead of having several people in the Hangout, I'm just doing a Hangout of one person, so it records the video just as it would an actual screencast. It's really nice because it's totally cross-platform. You can use it with Windows, Mac, or Linux. And you don't really need software. You just need to download a plugin that gives Google access to your webcam for recording purposes. So that's a really exciting feature. So next we have types of screencasts. There's actually several different ways you can use screencasts. And the first one is probably what most people think of. It's kind of what you're watching now. It's direct instruction screencasts, which is where I take a video of my screen or my webcam, and then you hear me talking in the background. It's kind of a supplement to, or I guess it's in place of a traditional lecture model if you want to do your direct instruction that way. The second one is what I call face-to-face course announcements. This is, again, it goes back to the idea that in an online course in particular, students don't really have a lot of face-to-face interaction with the professor. They don't really ever get a point where they see the professor's face and put the face to the voice and stuff like that. So when you send out a course announcement, like a reminder about a test coming up next week and the reading that's due and the final project that's going to be coming down the pike 3 weeks from now, you can either write that out as a text, and you can send students an email or an announcement that's kind of a few paragraphs of written text that they can read. Or what I like to do is record a brief 3 or 4 minute screencast of me saying, hey guys, there's a test coming up next week. Want to remind you about that and the final project 3 weeks from now. It's just another nice way for students to be able to see your face. The next one is called Homework Helper. I think that's their traditional name that it generally goes by in the literature. And this would be if students turn in their homework and you notice that students are getting the same problems wrong and they're using a lot of the same mistakes. So again, like with the announcements, you can either write something down and send it out to them, and they can read through the text of what you're writing, or you can actually do it by video. And one of the handy things about the video is that since you can record your screen, you can actually have the homework on your screen, scroll through it, highlight things when you want to highlight it, and kind of talk students through the problem. I think there's something about the human brain that just responds really well to hearing someone's voice and seeing people actually talk through a problem rather than maybe just reading through the problem. And the last kind of screencast I'm going to do, or I'm going to talk about, is what I would call project feedback. This is really good, especially for projects that aren't final papers or aren't long papers, but you can also use them for papers. And what it is instead of you actually giving written feedback, you actually do a short video where you have the project on your screen and you actually give the student feedback while you're going through. And it's really useful because you can scroll through a project while you're actually talking about the project, and it gives students maybe a more auditory way to actually grasp and get your feedback. And the video I'm going to show you is of a project for a course of mine called Politics of American Education, where I have students design a website devoted to a particular education policy of their choice. And I'm kind of going through with this particular student some of the things I like and dislike about his project, maybe things that could be improved. Hey Thomas, this is Dr. Currie-Knight here. Just want to give you some brief feedback on your website, which I really like, by the way. Even stylistically for creativity, it's obvious that you picked a background and font and stuff like that that's actually pretty fresh. It's not the norm, it's not the default settings, so I really like that. As far as your web resources, I think you're really on point here. The only thing I can say stylistically, and again, that's not like a deduction of points for this or anything, is I noticed that you have two different kinds of sources. So you have like National Center for Education Statistics or National Education Association's perspective on charter schools. But then you also have actual charter school websites. So you have like UNO is a charter system in Chicago, or you have Uncommon Schools. I like how you work Jeffrey Canada back into the thing there, or you have KIPP. So what I might do is you might even organize this section into here's some general resources about charter schools, and here's some example of some charter school organizations. So you might actually divide that into two sections. As you noticed, a really good thing about that project was that I can really walk through the actual website while I'm giving him feedback. And it would have been awkward to give him feedback as a written paper because then he has to look through the paper and scroll through the website himself. With the video, I can give him exactly what my thoughts are on exactly the particular area of the website in question. Okay, so there's three steps to doing a screencast. First, you create the screencast, then you host it on a website that stores videos, and then you post either the link or the HTML code on a particular web page, course management website. So let's go through the three steps in order. So the creating of the website, or the screencast rather, is probably the easiest to understand. It's basically when you press record and you actually create your screencast, you produce your screencast, and you press stop. So now you have a video that you can use and is usable to give students instruction or what have you. Well, the next step before you post it onto a website is you have to kind of host it somewhere in a kind of a web storage space that will allow you to embed the HTML code onto your course management site or whatever you want to do. The traditional ways to do this would be through something like YouTube or through maybe Google Drive or Microsoft SkyDrive if that's the way you go. The most typical is YouTube, of course. A lot of people are trepidatious about using YouTube because they feel like if you post to YouTube, the video is automatically public. Not to worry, it's actually not public. YouTube has privacy settings, so when you post a video, you can make the video either, number one, public, so everyone can search YouTube and find your video. Number two, you could actually make the video public only to people who access the video with your link. So this would be for like a class. If you want only certain people to access the video, you give them a link, but the video is not searchable on YouTube, so no one outside of the group that you give the link to can search YouTube and find the video. So it's only for people with the link. Last but not least, you can have a private video. Obviously, that's not going to work for posting purposes. You can do the same thing through Google Drive, honestly. If you're still trepidatious about YouTube, you just upload the video. You use your privacy settings the same way you do on YouTube, and you now have your video hosted somewhere. Now, once you have that, you have a link for the video, and you have HTML code for the video. The best way to give out your video is not through the link, because now students have to open the link and open up whatever page it is and now watch the video. But like I have the picture here for my course management site, you can embed the HTML code directly onto the page, which means the video is basically put directly on the page of your course management system. I'm going to show you a quick video on how to embed HTML code onto your course management site, because it sounds more difficult than it actually is. So I'm going to show you that video real quick. So let's say that I want to embed this video that shows the final project instructions into my course management site so that students can not only see the instructions, but they can view a video about them. So what I'm going to do is go to the YouTube site where I've hosted the video, and I'm going to go down to my share settings, and it will usually bring you to the URL code, but we don't want that because that just gives students a link that they can kick back to YouTube and watch the video there. I want to embed it in my actual page. So I'm going to go to embed, and that's going to give me the HTML code. Once I have that, I'm going to paste it into my text editor, and by going to the section that says HTML, and every text editor will have a spot where you can paste in an HTML code. So click HTML. It'll bring up a box where you paste it in. Click update, and you see that there's actually a box icon here in my text box to let me know that it's successfully pasted. So now I'm going to submit. And once I submit, you'll notice that I can go back to the area that I want the video pasted in, and voila. So now instead of having just a URL code that students can open YouTube with and watch the video there, they can actually watch it directly from my course management system. So that's basically how to do it. It's a very easy process, but it gives the benefit of students open up your web page and your video is just right there. No need to click on a hyperlink and open up a separate page to watch your video. It's right there. It's very easy. So the last thing I want to let you know is that I feel like I've gone over some of this fairly quickly because of the 20-minute time limit. But if you want some further information in your binder that you have in front of you, there is, if you turn to my notes page for this screencast or for this lightning round session, you'll actually see that there's a few links there. The first link is to a website that I created for instructors, that I created with a Matthew Plort of University of Delaware's Instructional Technology Center. And it's basically designed for teachers who are new to the screencasting experience, walks them through how to do it. So if you didn't get some of what I was saying here, you can actually go back and look at the website. There's some good resources. The next two are screencasts that I did, I think, on how to host your video through YouTube, so how to upload the video through YouTube and then use YouTube as a host site. The last one is, I think, how to screencast using YouTube itself, which is a really great tool to use. Obviously, there's other avenues you can go, but using YouTube is just super easy to do. So there's some of those, and this screencast, by the way, is actually up on YouTube as well. So if you do a keyword search of do's and don'ts of instructional screencasting or any of those combinations, you'll be able to find the video. It's publicly available until or unless IHS tells me it shouldn't be, but it's actually up there so that you can actually see this exact screencast again. So since I'm using the service that allows me to oscillate between my face-to-face screen and my webcam, here I am back again. So hopefully that's been helpful for you, and if you have any questions, obviously I'll look forward to getting those during the lightning round, or during the question and answer.